I know I usually start these series with an instrument, but I'm in my Miami apartment and I don't have an instrument, so I thought I'd go like Lil Wayne style. Like, Naomi Campbell and Tyra Banks, part 1. Let's start it off with the science. Tyra Banks was born in Inglewood, California. She is a Sagittarius sun, Aries moon, Cancer rising. Wow. And Miss Naomi is a Gemini, Sagittarius, Capricorn. Yeah, I don't want to get into an argument with her. She's gonna make me feel this big. Before we embark on where their paths crossed, on the crossing of paths, let's talk about their beginnings, a little context. Let's begin with Tyra, who looks like an actual angel in this photo. So Tyra grew up pretty normal. She was born in Inglewood, like I said. Her mom was a medical photographer. I don't really know what that means. Her dad was in computers, a computer consultant. She says that she was called an ugly duckling a lot growing up, which is insane to me because, right. Stunned. When she was 11, she grew 3 inches and lost 30 pounds in 3 months. So she's 15, right? And she's still going to school, but she's pursuing a modeling career, and she is rejected from 4 modeling agencies. And then finally, she is signed to the infamous Elite Model Management. Their history is a doozy. I saw that documentary on Netflix about the owner. He's like, I'm 42, but I married a 17-year-old. We're in love. Very weird, very weird. And Linda Evangelista's ex-husband. We love Linda. I love you, Linda. But yeah, Tyra probably has stories. Anyway, so she starts modeling in Europe, so she moves to Milan at 16. Her first runway season, she books 25 shots. Iconic, incredible, unheard of, amazing. She does editorials for American, Italian, French, Spanish, Vogue, all of the L's, all of the Harper's Bazaars, W Mag, Vanity Fair, all of them. Even the magazines like Cosmo, 17. She walks for Chanel. She walks for Oscar de la Renta, Dior, Anna Sui, Christian Dior, all of them. Ready to redo the list? I'll redo the list. Chanel, Oscar de la Renta, Yves Saint Laurent, Anna Sui, Christian Dior, Donna Karan, Calvin Klein, Perry Ellis, Marc Jacobs. That's crazy because Perry Ellis, Marc Jacobs used to work at Perry Ellis. Okay. Hervé Leger, Valentino, Fendi, Isaac Mizrahi, Giorgio Armani. Part 2, Naomi and Tyra, and we did a little backstory on Tyra Banks and her beginnings. And now it's time to do Naomi. The Naomi Campbell. I was just on the phone with somebody, they're like, which Naomi? Naomi Watts and Tyra Banks. That rivalry. That one. Nicole Kidman's Australian best friend, Naomi Watts. Naomi Campbell! So Naomi Campbell was born in South London to a Jamaican mother who was a dancer, okay? And in accordance to her mother's wishes, she never met her father because her father abandoned her when she was 4 months old. And he even went unnamed on her birth certificate. And her mother was a true creative. And Naomi also went to school for dance. She actually makes her first public appearance debut on a Bob Marley music video. What is it? And Naomi, she keeps doing music videos and eventually she starts modeling. And that's a very short synopsis. But during modeling, it became very apparent that this is the most beautiful, can you believe this is a human being, walking among us? Can you believe? That's insane to me. So Naomi really intended to be a dancer. She did ballet, she did tap dance, she did modern. That's what she wanted to be. But then she found herself on the catwalk, and she is one of the iconic first supermodels, like Christy Turlington, like Cindy Crawford, like so many, Yasmin. There's so many. There's Shalom Harlow, there's Stephanie Seymour, there's Kate Moss, there's Claudia Schiffer, Yasmin, the God, the Angel, like I already mentioned. Naomi, I already mentioned. Cindy, I already mentioned. People count Heidi Klum. What was her nickname? The Body. Heidi Klum, the Body. Helena Christensen in that one music video in black and white when she was rolling around hot. Kamorley Simmons. Beverly Peel, iconic. So let's go back to the early 90s. Tyra Banks is starting to become really successful, and huge surprise, I know, hope you're seated for this one, there were not a lot of black girls dominating the runway. So they see Tyra Banks and they start calling her the new Naomi, and you wouldn't like that shit either. This is important to note and extremely problematic because this implies that there can only be one true black supermodel. Laughable. Laughable. Let me tell you this, nobody called a new white brunette girl model that's coming up the new Cindy. Nobody called any blonde models the new Kate Moss. It was just this rivalry that the press really zeroed in on. And Naomi really broke boundaries. She was the first black supermodel to get cover after cover after cover and to become so many designers' muse. Part 3, Tyra and Naomi. So I'm going to list off some of Naomi Campbell's accomplishments. Ready? She was the first black model on British Vogue in 1987 since 1966, the first black model to appear on French Vogue in 1988, a spot she landed with the assist from Yves Saint Laurent, who personally threatened to pull his advertisements from the magazine if she didn't land the cover. The first black model to appear on American Vogue's September issue, the most sought-after issue of Vogue, period. In 1989, Anna Wintour's first September cover for the magazine was Naomi Watts. Look what you made me do! Anna Wintour said this, "I remember all the men in suits being absolutely stunned by the fact that I would put a black woman on the September cover of Vogue." Losers. Also unfair that Tyra and Naomi have been compared to each other from the start because they had completely different goals. Tyra very much wanted to be a mainstream girl. I guess you could call it a catalog girl, but I feel like that sounds demeaning. That's not what I mean at all. And Naomi very much only wanted to work with high fashion. In 1983, Tyra got the CoverGirl deal. Some of Tyra's CoverGirl ads. Beautiful. I love 90s makeup. I really do. Here's another. I mean, she has a ton of these. Easy breezy, beautiful. This one's my fave. For some reason, I just feel like it's so good. So while CoverGirl is huge, being the face of a drugstore makeup brand was not the same as what Naomi Campbell was doing at the time, and she was already a very established high fashion supermodel. Campbell even said that at the time she would not have been caught dead doing such a commercial low-end brand partnership. But we love CoverGirl, okay? Throughout the years, Tyra Banks did stop doing such high fashion stuff and started working more in commercial spaces. Famously, Victoria's Secret. Not only was she the first black woman to appear in a Victoria's Secret catalog, she was also the first black woman to appear in Sports Illustrated. Some iconic covers, however, soon moved into TV and movies. Their trajectory was just so different, but the media was obsessed. I'll read you this quote from the Daily Telegraph. "My idols weren't Naomi Campbell or Linda Evangelista. They were Claudia Schiffer and Cindy Crawford. They took their name and made it into a business, and that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be another model, waiting for the phone to ring and hoping that Karl Lagerfeld, as much as I love him, would use me for his collection. I wanted to be in control of my career." My neighbor slams his door, just a personal note, slams his door so hard that I think he's slamming mine. So all the time I'm like, hello? And I must sound like I'm doing a seance or something to my other neighbor. Another backstory, a little bit about the careers. Let's talk about the feud. Bitch. Part 4, Naomi and Tyra. So pretty much as soon as Tyra was starting to taste some success, the comparisons between her and Naomi Campbell started off rip. Tyra said that the press called them rivals before they even met. Tyra pushed back on the idea of a rivalry. It wasn't a rivalry. Say rivalry 5 times fast. Page. It wasn't a rivalry, Banks told the Wall Street Journal in 2019. And I'm very sensitive to that word because a rivalry is with 2 equals to me, where one was very dominant. She was a supermodel, and I was just some girl that got off a plane from Paris and was studying fashion in magazines at a fashion library. Let's talk about the infamous shoot. Real fashion bitches know about this shoot. This is a May 1992 Vogue shoot. Say this is the iciest of photos, but it's still giving very much fashion. Pics like this, that's Beverly Peel, but pics like this, you could not believe the cattiness that was happening behind the scenes of this shoot. Yes, it was styled by the iconic Grace Coddington. Apparently, during this shoot, Naomi went to go help Tyra Banks because she was feeling seasick, and not a word was spoken between them before this. Not a word. Nothing. Hi, hello, how are you? Nothing. Apparently Naomi saw that she was feeling seasick, went over to her and was like, are you feeling okay? Tyra's like, oh, thank you. And Naomi goes, be honest. Did they try to make you look like me? Apparently, Tyra Banks says, not anymore, but in LA they definitely did. And apparently Naomi pushed her and said, I thought so. Tyra says that before the photo shoot, she called her mom. She's like, this is so exciting. And after she called her mom and it was crying, she was like, not a word was spoken. Not a word. Not a word. Can you imaginables? I can't. I would try to crack a joke. No one would laugh. It would make it worse. But I'm running out of things to talk about in therapy, so maybe it would be for the best. The New York Times was pushing on the rivalry. In 1993, an article came out with the New York Times. Okay. Question. Is it true that there's a rivalry between you and this new model, Tyra? This is to Naomi Campbell. Answer. I don't want to talk about it. I haven't a thing to say. Nothing at all. I'm just focusing on other things. Here's that interview, a little snippet. And you can't win. You can't win. Because if you say no comment, they're like, icicles. And if you give too much, like, wow, she cares so much, she's so threatened. You can't win. Same year, allegedly, Naomi Campbell told Karl Lagerfeld to ban Tyra from the runway and says, if she appears, I will not. And elite model management founder John Casablancas said that Naomi Campbell told him numerous times to drop Tyra Banks. Part 5, Naomi, Tyra. So this quote is from John Casablancas, right? The elite founder said, she made me lose Tyra Banks because she didn't feel there was room for her and Tyra at the same agency. Naomi Campbell hears this and tells the New York Times this. I'm not Johnny Casablancas, not the nip. The emasculation. Love it. I don't own Elite. I was on vacation. I wasn't even in New York. When I came back, I heard it from everyone saying, my hands are clean. Through all of this, however, it was always rumor. They never publicly, and they were never quoted actually saying a bad thing about one another in the 90s. Now listen to this. Bank recalls early days of her career, however, saying, as much as I was getting fashion shows, people didn't know that I would come home at night crying a lot because the woman I admired didn't want me to be there and was doing everything in her power to make me go away. But Naomi Campbell admits that she bought into the media feud of them saying there could only be one black supermodel, which is such bullshit. Campbell admits that she bought into the feeling that there could only be one black supermodel. And the idea didn't come from nowhere. It came from a notorious racist industry. And the concern that there were few seats at the table for black women was valid for the time. Jezebel contributor Hazel Sills. Hey, Hazel, it's impossible to walk through the Campbell's-Banks feud without considering that it was happening in an industry that made space for dozens and dozens of white women in a runway show, the Linda Evangelistas, the Christy Turlingtons, but considered the inclusion of more than one black model just too much to handle. The two models were extremely aware of this, so much that in 1992, Tyra, Naomi, and many other models that did not look like Gerber babies, they held a press conference in New York and called it the Black Girls Coalition. In 1994, Tyra Banks told People magazine, why am I shaking my finger at you all the time? I'm so sorry. So, Tyra Banks told People magazine in 1994, why do I have to knock Naomi out to be successful? With the white models, they don't do that. But in a 1993 profile for the Sacramento Observer, I didn't know that Sacramento had an Observer. Banks said, unfortunately, this business only embraces one African-American beauty. If Beverly Peel, Lana Ogilvy, why do I have to make everybody Latina? Lana Ogilvy, if Beverly Peel, Lana Ogilvy, and I were walking all down the street together, they would still call out Naomi if she were chosen as the one. Early 2000s, during the 90s, Tyra was like, it's all media, whatever. But in the 2000s, she started talking to the press about how Naomi was so horrible to her. Part 6, Naomi and Tyra. I don't even think people watch these series anymore. I'm really just doing it for you and me. we're not doing emails when we're hanging out with our friends. In the 2000s, Tyra starts really opening up about all the hateful things that Naomi did to her, and I didn't call them hateful. Tyra did. I'll show you. She did so many hateful things. See? Direct quote. I never said it. She did. Like getting me thrown off shows because she was more famous, Banks told Newsweek in 2004. Though she still didn't name Campbell. Oh, she never said my name. She's just alluding. It got so bad that I called my mother and I told her that I just wanted to give it up. Meanwhile, Naomi, as you and I both know, had already kind of set up this reputation for being cold. She said this, being a bitch for me, if that's what people want to think of me as, has protected me in so many ways. You know what? Fucking valid. What did Nicki Minaj say? Hello, I'm a human being. If you know, you know. If I'm going to be remembered for something, I want to be remembered for being a bitch, but a hardworking bitch and a loyal bitch. That's what the fuck I was talking about. Let me save that to my fucking notepad for the daily affirmation. Then Tyra Banks has like the Tyra Banks show, right? Not then. I think it was already going. What a fun show. You can kiss my fat ass. You remember? And the fat suit when she pretended to be homeless. Whatever. Anyway, she's going 20 esa tipa. So Tyra Banks invites Naomi Campbell to the Tyra show to talk about their rivalry. And to everyone's surprise, well, actually, I didn't ask anybody, but to my surprise, Naomi accepts and she goes on the Tyra show. Let me fucking tell you something. That was television. Immediately, there's an imbalance of power. Like, immediately, Tyra starts crying, and Naomi, I swear to God, is like this. Hold on. Like, want to see a clip? I don't believe Naomi for a second. Well, I choose to. In my delusion, we choose to over here. However, there is a time in that interview, and I can't like find it through the shuffle. Tyra Banks says that was one of the most difficult times of my entire life. And Naomi goes, it's not that deep. Tyra also says, like, to be honest, Naomi, like, I'm fearful of you to this day. And Naomi's like, okay. Like, just, I don't think it, like, registers to her, like, the impact that Naomi had on girls. Maybe now she does, but at the time, I just don't think, you know. So that's why Naomi said that apology. You know what I mean? Like, however I've affected you, which I love, which is like, I'm not saying that I meant to, but it seems that I did. You would think the beef was squashed. You would. Part 9, Tyra and Naomi. So during that interview, they also discuss a certain Versace show, and I didn't show you the clip, but I'll try to really bring you there with my colorful language. So apparently in the 90s, Tyra Banks shows up to walk a Versace show, and they're like, sorry, you have to leave, like, you're not working the show. And she's like, why? And the person, like, I think it was actually Gianni, was like, oh, I just cracked my fucking... They, like, hinted towards Naomi Campbell, which is just craziness. We all know Tyra Banks has America's Next Top Model, and you want to be on top? My middle school years, that bitch had me fucking posing in front of a mirror like this. Ho! But make it what? Yeah, fashion. In 2012, Naomi Campbell comes out with a show called The Face, and the comparisons once again like blow up. Because we're so weak, as a people, we're so weak. This time, it was Naomi in Tyra's shadow. Because she was stepping into a space that like Tyra had dominated for so many years. Listen to this. The New York Daily News reported that Campbell had told model Coco Rocha that if she signed onto The Face, she could never appear on America's Next Top Model again. And when comparisons came out between The Face and America's Next Top Model, Campbell told Elle in 2013, I don't watch other reality model shows. I'll never have anything to say. If you ask me about Tyra Banks, I'm proud of her as a woman of color. She's given girls an opportunity, and God bless her. That God bless her? That's the, you know? So like delicately and like powerfully shady. That is a skill. You can only learn that, I feel, from your Caribbean mother. Like that is something that like, it's a delicate dance, and she really fucking kills it. It's like very hard for me to believe that she's never seen an episode of America's Next Top Model, even if to talk shit about it. Like, be real. Like, be real, be serious, be here. Come on. 2019, Naomi goes on an episode of Watch What Happens Live. Andy Cohen is somehow intertwined in all these stories. And they bring up Tyra Banks. And she says this: "We are in a good friendship. I really do not feel, and it does bug me and irk me that two women of the same ilk, where women of color have to be pitted against each other. And that's something I always felt back then. When I did Tyra's show, we cleared that up. And I'm very proud of Tyra and what she's done with America's Next Top Model. I'm proud of her. I'm proud to know her. And I'm not into the pitching game." But then Tyra keeps going. It's on Howard Stern in 2010. You know how I fucking feel about that guy. Where she talks about the traumatizing experience that working with Naomi was like, or being in a rivalry with Naomi was like. This: "The world told her there can only be one. And here is the new one, the new Naomi. And you better back up." So she reacted very strongly to something that was already negative. Like, Part 10, Naomi and Tyra. So Tyra continues to talk about Naomi, and Naomi continues to just say, "I'm very proud of her. We squashed it. I'm very proud of her." And then it seems Naomi had enough, because Naomi took to her Instagram and shared a list of problematic moments Tyra Banks has had via America's Next Top Model. And I had to back up there because that's a little scary. The list is full of moments, like moments where Tyra Banks says or implies that Black women are unmarketable because of things like their natural hair, etc. And another time she told a contestant not to be like openly gay because it wasn't like a good look, which is weird because Miss J, the icon, I don't think he has a girlfriend. You know what I mean? What do we think about this feud? I'm going to tell you what I think. I think we will never know what this relationship could have been like if the media hadn't set their eyes on the idea that there could only be one Black supermodel. And it really plays into not only racism, but ageism for sure, because many times people are like, "Oh, Naomi's so old." And I think she's only 3 or 4 years older than Tyra Banks, which is crazy. And also that neither party is perfect, you know? I do think that there was a time where Naomi was like, "I'm not going to feed into it. I'm so bored with this." But I do think that Tyra just like continued to bring her up. And even though it is her story to tell, you know, like I'm not going to tell somebody like, shut up. You do have to think about like, I think it's different than if you're, you know, telling your close friends and family and like your therapist, whatever. But it's different if you tell the press. And I do think the both of them did the best they could with what they had available to them. And I mean, Tyra Banks was 17, 16. And Naomi was what? 18, 19, 20. She was 21, 22 when they first knew of one another. And I hear a lot of the times that, you know, they are both different names. There's a lot of name calling involved when it comes to these two women. And I just think like you don't know what they had to do to survive and how that's imprinted on them and how that's changed their DNA and their thought process and the way they approach people, the way they welcome people, the way that they choose people, the way that they love people. So I don't think it was easy being them. And I think the media chose to make it even harder. So yeah. Tefi, what team are you on? Miss J's. Duh. Have some sense.